So I'm actually, well, first of all, yes, welcome everyone. And for everyone who is watching the recorded version of this, welcome. I'm Tara. I'm a professional astrologer. And yes, I am going to be going over the month of July, all of our huge astrological transits that we have coming up that is going to be good information for you all to be aware of. I am also going to be just touching a little bit on last month because we also had a lot of crazy things happen in June that I just kind of want to highlight. So, again, we can understand how the astrology is working. Why did things happen? Why were things timed a certain way? And yes, you guessed it, it lined up with the astrology that was happening. Um, can everyone see the screen or no? I'm just going to do the share one more time to make sure everyone can see the screen, the share screen here. Okay. Yeah, everyone should be able to see it now. Great. So this is just the current transit chart, but before we get into this, I want to address the Mars-Uranus square that we had the weekend of July 14th. And we all know what happened that weekend. It was incredibly intense. And unfortunately, that was the energy of that transit. When Mars and Uranus, and I talked about this last month, when those two planets square off with each other, it's explosive. Mars is the planet of war, right? War, aggression, assertiveness, sometimes, yes, even violence. And Uranus is the planet of, kind of combustible energy, sudden energy, electricity. It's a very explosive planet. So when these two planets face off, yeah, we're going to see some pretty drastic events reflected in our events. So that was the weekend that we had the just tragic assassinations of the Democratic lawmakers in Minnesota. We had that event. We also had the protests, the No Kings protests, which thankfully were incredibly peaceful. Nobody got hurt. Thank God. That all went well. But then we also had we had a military parade, and we had these strikes in Iran and Iraq. I mean, not Iran, Iran and Israel. We had that war sort of ramp up. And that went on for 12 days. So yes, that, I said something's going to happen when that Mars and Uranus square off. And sure enough, we all saw those things unfold. Now, also, there was also a lot of confusion later in the month. It was really stood out to me, the communication around when our government then went and bombed Iran, and then Iran bombed one of our targets. But there was all of this confusion about what was actually targeted. Were the uranium supplies actually taken out or weren't they? And it was a lot of mixed messages coming from both our government and actually Iran as well. And that is just a great example, too, of this Neptune in Aries. I went, man, that is so Neptune in Aries, because Neptune can be the planet of confusion. It's like everything is kind of fuzzy. And while it's in Aries, around things related to wars, attacks, challenges. So yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting, and I noted that. Um, and then getting into a little bit of the astrology that just happened a few days ago, right? On July 4th, we had Venus conjunct Uranus at the 29th degree of Taurus. Okay. And for those of you who have been following me for a while now or have been attending these lives, you know that the 29th degree is a very potent degree. It is that final degree before a planet is going to switch over into a brand new sign. So it holds a lot of energy. So Venus passing Uranus at this 29th degree on July 4th, triggering this Uranus. And actually, I will say my predictions, I knew something was going to happen, but my predictions had nothing to do with what actually happened. I was really looking at the financial component of Taurus, and sort of like the relationship aspect of Venus. But what actually happened, and it absolutely also applicable because Taurus is also Earth, right? And Uranus is sudden, right? Change, chaos. What this ended up being, unfortunately, were these tragic floods in Texas. And with Venus too, right? Venus represents women, girls. And it went through this girls' camp, and these girls are missing. And it's an awful, awful story. But it did match the timing of when Venus triggered this Uranus and Taurus, this natural disaster that came on, and it came on very quickly, very suddenly. A lot of people, they didn't have time to escape. And another point to this is because I'm very familiar with Kerrville, Texas, because it was the epicenter of solar eclipses over the last 2 years. And I'm actually now going to show you guys a map of the path of totality of our eclipses and where they passed over in Texas. So you can really see the visualization of this for those of you watching. Okay, so we had the solar eclipse in 2023 and the solar eclipse in 2024. They both, you can literally see it makes an X, the paths of the totality where the eclipse was the strongest, right over Kerrville, Texas. And, personally, as an astrologer, I don't like to infuse eclipses with, ooh, eclipses are scary, eclipses are intense. They are intense, but unfortunately, too, they can be omens. Eclipses, because it goes totally dark in a solar eclipse. There is something ominous about it. And yes, ancient cultures always associated solar eclipses kind of with something more dark, something more perilous, an omen maybe of something, not good that could come. So we are seeing that both of these solar eclipses passed over Kerrville, Texas, and then we've had this tragedy manifest, which is unfortunate. However, it does make some sense when we're looking at where these eclipses crossed. Okay, so those are the only things I wanted to address before we get into this month. So getting into July, all right, we just talked about what that Venus-Uranus transit was a few days ago. We also now have Neptune retrograde. Okay, Neptune has stationed retrograde, which is going to last now through December 10th. Okay, retrogrades are always about review and reflection for us personally. Okay, personally, that's what that energy is about. It is more about going internal, looking inward. Where do I need to review? Where do I need to reflect? Where do I need to make adjustments? And whatever it is, it's related to that planet that is retrograde. So for us personally, Neptune retrograde is a time for reviewing maybe our dreams, our ideals, what we see for ourselves, maybe our spiritual practices, how connected to our empathy we are, how connected we are to our sensitivity, can even be, something related to the arts. Am I able to express myself artistically? If not, how can I improve that? So yes, that's what it means for us personally. Now, on the grander scale, with Neptune specifically retrograde, because when planets go retrograde too, they also aren't functioning the way they normally would, right? So Neptune is the planet of it's, it softens things. Neptune kind of adds, sparkle dust. It makes things a little softer, a little easier to navigate. It makes reality sometimes seem not as harsh, not as intense. There's a softness and, yes, sensitivity with Neptune. So when Neptune goes retrograde, though, that power is kind of stripped. Okay. So globally, collectively, it's like for the next 6 months, we don't have that soft, right? That soft glow to filter life through. So it's like the reality, we're going to see the reality of what is the true state of the world without any softness, without any right rose-colored glasses. What is the state of the world actually? That is what we are going to see show up over the next 6 months. And so, and for us personally too, if you look in your own natal charts, look to see like where is 2 degrees Aries in your own chart? What house is that in? Because that can also be a place where, yeah, we're going to be doing some reviewing. We're going to be doing some reflecting. So, for example, if it's for you, if you've got Aries in your fourth house, the next 5, 6 months, it's going to be about, maybe reviewing some things that have to do with your family, that have to do with your home, that have to do with your living environment, that have to do with your parents, your children, etc. Those sorts of things. If you've got Aries in your 10th house, we're maybe going to be some reviewing about our reputation, about our career, about the work we're doing in life right now. So that's our Neptune retrograde. And yes, these outer planets, they are retrograde for like half the year, like 5, 6 months out of the year, we have them retrograde. So it's not super uncommon. And it happens every year. It's our smaller planets. And we are going to have Mercury go retrograde this month. Those are the ones that like Mercury retrograde, that's like 3 weeks, right? That one's easy. But these outer planets, it's like 5, 6 months where we're doing that more internal work. Okay. So we had that on the 4th. Yes, we had our Venus-Uranus conjunction. And then we've also had two in the last 2 days. We also had Venus leave Taurus, which is a little sad because that's her home. That's where Venus is like doing her favorite things, was in Taurus. So I hope everyone did get to enjoy the last month. Hopefully you guys got to do some Venus and Taurus things, do some things you love, ate some good food, maybe did some gardening or went to a garden or saw a pretty sunset, did some things. Obviously you can still do those things now. But Venus and Taurus just makes those experiences just even more pleasant. So now we've got Venus in Gemini, which is still good. Still, it's not like it's a bad place for Venus to be. It's just different. Okay. This is more about, falling in love with our curiosities, right? With the things we're really interested in. What do we want to be learning for the next month? Because this is going to be Venus in Gemini will be here through July 30th. Okay. So pretty much the whole month until the very end of the month, she's going to move into Cancer. But overall, Venus in Gemini is like, what are the things you want to be learning about? What conversations do you want to be having? What people do you want to be socializing with? Because this is also, it's very social. Venus in Gemini is very much like, get your friends together, participate in community events, take workshops, take classes, interact with people who are, on the same page as you or who you have similar interests with. Really great for socializing, really great for, any get-togethers, dinner parties, barbecues, just anything social that you want to be doing. Venus and Gemini, great for that. Also, if you happen to be in a relationship, this is a really great time for, you and your significant other to be like learning something together. Maybe you're going to read a book together and have conversations about it. Maybe you're going to take a class together. But something where you both can learn at the same time and learn something together is a really nice use of this. If you're not in a relationship, and maybe if you are wanting to be in a relationship, this Venus and Gemini too is very good for just meeting people, for just going out, meeting people. Conversations flow very easily with Venus and Gemini. And it's also, it's kind of like people born with Venus and Gemini are flirts. It's very flirty because these are people who are just like really good with words. So right now, all of us are kind of good with words, and we're more easily able to write, like maybe make cute jokes, that sort of thing. So that's our Venus and Gemini transit. And then let's move to, where are we? This is today. Yeah, and actually today we are having Venus making a nice aspect actually to Neptune and Saturn, which this is positive actually today and tomorrow, like good days to, maybe do some brainstorming for something creative that you want to be working on, or to, yes, socializing, with people that you really admire. It's a nice time to do that. But yeah, definitely if you've been wanting to do something creative, I would definitely either brainstorm or just take action on that thing today or tomorrow. Really good energy for that. Okay, and now we're getting to this one right away. We have our biggest transit of the month. Let's move this ahead. Tomorrow with Uranus entering Gemini for the first time in 84 years. Okay. It takes 84 years for Uranus to make a complete loop around the zodiac. So here we are back with Uranus in Gemini, where it has not first entered since 1941. Okay. That was the last time. If any of you attended my lecture I did earlier in the year, I really break down this transit, reference all kinds of things from history, when we last had this transit, the few times before we've had this transit, what has happened. And if anyone missed that and they want to watch it, you can download it on my website. But let's just give a little brief overview. What is this about? Okay. For one, Uranus will be in the sign of Gemini for the next 7 years. Okay. So through 2032, we're going to have this energy. Uranus, again, we've talked about it a little bit, but the planet of change. Okay. And sometimes sudden change, fast change, it speeds things up. Okay. It's also the planet of liberation, revolution, rebellion, okay, progress. So knowing that technology too, Uranus is also associated with technology, literally like electricity. So then we combine that with Gemini, right, which is about communication, information, socializing, learning, transportation too. Gemini also rules things like air travel, car travel, train travel, right? All of these things. So yes, we are going to see a lot of advancements, okay, related to those things over the next 7 years. This is very much about technology. This is going to go along with our Pluto in Aquarius, which is also about technology stuff. But this is, again, like, it's AI, you guys. It's going to be AI moving quickly. It's going to be things like, these driverless cars. Maybe we're even also going to have flying cars. We're probably going to have, maybe train travel is going to speed up. We're going to get bullet trains, all of that kind of stuff. Also, different ways of getting information. Things are going to evolve with that. Things are going to evolve with how we communicate with each other. But what's interesting is Uranus is very much also like it's about independence too. So, and we're already starting to see this, right? With traditional, mainstream media, right? Those traditional news sources are getting less and less popular, right? People are now, even reporters, journalists are just forming their own independent channels, right? They're doing their own Substacks or YouTube where they're independent of, they don't have to work for NBC anymore, or they don't have to work for these bigger news outlets. They can just do it as an individual. So I definitely think, right, we're going to see more of that. And also, too, it is, like I said, Gemini, too, also very social. So, we're going to see changes, I think, in the structures of our societies. There are going to be some changes there. And then the big thing that happens every time Uranus is in Gemini is the United States goes to war. Okay. The founding of our nation, okay, 1776, we were in the Revolutionary War. And yes, we had Uranus in Gemini. It's in the birth chart of the United States. But what all of these wars have had in common is they all are about liberation. And Uranus is the planet of liberation, right? So, Revolutionary War, we were liberating ourselves from the monarchy, from Britain. The next war where Uranus was in Gemini was the Civil War. Half the country was fighting to liberate the enslaved people in the South, right? Liberate them and slavery. Then we had World War II, where we went to liberate Europe from the Nazis. And okay, now our time is up again. Now, this time, not really sure which direction it's going to go. I keep saying maybe it's going to be a country that's going to have to come and liberate us. I hope that's not the case, but we're already kind of, seeing some things our government is doing that is not great. It's actually really, really bad. And it's looking like freedoms are going to be stripped away. But again, we don't know. But we do know there will be some kind of war. And now this time too, we are in more modern times. It could be some kind of cyber war. It could be technology based. Who knows? But definitely something will be coming. Is it going to happen, starting tomorrow? No, it might not happen for the next couple years, but it will be something we will see during this transit. That I know. So also for all of you, look, where is Gemini? Where is 0 degrees Gemini in your natal chart? Okay, because that house for the next 7 years, and for some of you, yeah, it might cross 2 houses, but for the next 7 years, that's where you're going to be liberated. That's where you're going to have changes. And yeah, they might happen fast. They might happen very quickly. So the best thing we can all do with this energy is like, you've got to remain adaptable. You've got to remain flexible. The more flexible you are, the easier that change is going to happen. I'm very curious because I have my my midheaven. Actually, I think I had my chart here. Yeah, my midheaven is literally 0 degrees Gemini. So tomorrow, Uranus is going to cross into my 10th house, my house of career, public reputation, professional opportunities, all of this stuff. So I'm very curious. And I guess you guys will kind of be be on that ride with me. We'll see what happens. But yeah, so that's something, make a note of that. Check out, where is 0 degrees Gemini in my chart? What house is that? Where can I expect, yeah, to have some changes happen? Where can I be prepared? Let's see. So that is, yeah, that's the biggest transit of the month, and it is our third and final big planetary shift of the year, right? Because we did Neptune into Aries, Saturn into Aries, and now Uranus into Gemini. So we're done with our big changes in terms of those outer planets. Now we also have tomorrow, you can see Venus at 3 degrees Gemini and Pluto at 3 degrees Aquarius. Okay, so they are making a this is a really positive aspect. These planets are getting along. It's very powerful energy for relationships, for communication. This is really good. Like if you want to have a healing conversation with someone, really good for that. Or if you just want to do something for yourself tomorrow, this is really good energy for that. Yeah, and just probably any, if you have significant conversations tomorrow, that wouldn't be surprising, whether you plan them or not. Because this is just, yeah, it's a very powerful alignment. It's in air. Air is usually has something to do with communication, or maybe some of you guys are going to get an email or a phone call or a message, maybe that's significant in some way. Okay, moving on to our first moon of the month is going to be our full moon in Capricorn. Okay, this is going to be on July 10th. Okay, at 18 degrees of Capricorn. Okay, now the Capricorn full moon, not a super, I mean, I shouldn't say that. All full moons are emotional in some capacity just because it's an intense energy. But typically, a Capricorn full moon is not going to be super sentimental, super emotional because it's Capricorn. Capricorn is about business, right? This is the full moon in Capricorn is a reality check. It's like, let's see if you've got your ducks in a row. Have you been working on your goals? Do you have the things organized in your life that you should have organized right now? It's very much like inventory on the structures that support us in life. It's a check-in for, do I have a good emergency savings account? Is my job and professional life fulfilling? Am I living in a place that feels like home, that feels supportive, or do I need to move somewhere that's going to give me more stability? Okay. For some of us too, we might have some wake up calls during this full moon. We might get some information that's like, oh yeah, I should have been paying attention to that, but I wasn't. Um, but overall, it's just a good moon to like kind of really put on our adult pants and like just go over where do things stand in my life right now. Is there anything that I need to be paying more attention to? Is there anything I need to be taking more seriously? Okay. And for some people, Capricorn does rule our profession or professions in general. So some people, yeah, end up leaving their jobs on a full moon in Capricorn, or maybe they get an offer. Maybe a different job comes through on a full moon in Capricorn. Um, it's usually not like you're going to be let go out of the blue. It's usually like a personal decision, like, yeah, I feel like it's time to leave. It's time to do something different. Um, oh, well, and we can look at, so the ruler of this moon is Saturn. Yeah, and it's making a sextile to Uranus, not exact, but close enough. So that tells us, yeah, there could be some changes that happen around this full moon. Maybe, yeah, we see it on a global level, or maybe it's for us personally. We have some sort of change happen, and probably something positive, because this is a positive aspect. It's not anything challenging. So yeah, maybe some of us have something good happen, some good change happen. And then the moon is also getting a positive aspect from Mars. Okay, Mars in Virgo, very productive. So this too is a good day to I was going to say set an intention. Usually we don't set intentions though on full moons. Usually we release something. This is a good moon to, yeah, release any stress that you have in your life. Where have you been critical? Where have you been too hard on yourself? Okay. Let that go. Let that go this full moon. Give yourself a hug. Give yourself a pat on the back. Okay, moving on to the 12th. On the 12th, we have Saturn station retrograde. Let's see, when is it going to actually happen? Later in the day? Here we go. Okay. So Saturn is going to station retrograde in Aries through November 28th. Okay. So again, about 5.5 months. Okay. Same thing with Saturn retrograde, right? Internal for us personally. Time to reflect, review those Saturn things, similar to Capricorn stuff, right? Reviewing the structure in our lives. Where do I need to make improvements? Where can I create more stability? Where do I need to be taking things more seriously? Where can I be taking more responsibility? Where can I be more mature about things? That's our Saturn retrograde, reflecting on those questions. Okay. Now, for the collective, again, same thing I said earlier, the planet isn't functioning at its normal force when it's retrograde. Okay. So normal Saturn is, yeah, the planet of structure, order, right? Keeping stability, keeping things running along, right? Saturn retrograde, we are going to lose some of that. We're going to lose some of that ability to see order, to have things, to have checks and balances, to have people follow the rules. That's a little harder to do collectively when Saturn is retrograde. So I'm going to pull up the history lesson for you guys because I went back to other times where Saturn first went retrograde in Aries because I was curious about, well, what kind of things happened? Can we learn anything? So I went back to the summer of 1967. Okay. This was one of the times that Saturn was retrograde in Aries. This was a very turbulent time. It was dubbed the long hot summer, okay? Because it was pretty brutal, honestly. I don't want to scare people or fear monger any of that, but this is just it's the reality. This was a summer of riots, racial riots, one of the deadliest riots in US history, the Detroit riots. That was when Saturn was retrograde in Aries. We also had a lot of protests, okay, about the Vietnam War. That was also going on during that time. So if we're looking at that, could we have, yeah, big uprising protests again this summer? Absolutely. Could we have riots? Absolutely. Could we have racial tensions, right? Come to a climax? Absolutely. So just again, something to be aware of. It's not to scare anybody. It doesn't mean you have to stay inside all summer. It's just be aware of your surroundings, be aware of where you're putting your energy. But yeah, so we've got that for a few months too, where it will be a little harder for order to like do its thing because Saturn can't do its full thing when he's retrograde. Okay, July 17th. July 17th, we have our fourth quarter moon, okay? Moon in Aries, making a square to that sun in Cancer. And this is just a day where we're going to be really sensitive. This is like a day where your feelings can get hurt very easily because we've got super sensitive Cancer and then Aries, right? Aries isn't going to sugarcoat things. Aries is going to say the thing. So, yeah, you could have, maybe you have a confrontation with someone, maybe someone hurts your feelings, maybe you accidentally hurt someone's feelings. So, it's just good to be aware around July 17th, like be a little more mindful of your words if you're interacting with other people. If you're just at home by yourself, not too much to worry about. But if you're interacting with people, especially family members, because it's Cancer and it is the moon, just be a little more mindful of what you're going to say. And also, the Aries moon is very defensive. So you might come across some people who are just very defensive, and they're probably just going to be that way. Don't try to change their mind. You're probably not going to get too far. They're probably just going to want to argue. And you do not have to engage in that. Okay, then oops, no, sorry, correction. On the 17th, yes, this is also when we have Mercury station retrograde. Okay, so we have 3 retrograde stations this month, which can also feel like a slowdown too. Retrograde energy is a little bit slower, so things might take longer. Or we might feel like, oh, why am I getting delays on this? Why am I getting pushback on this? Well, because the planets are slowing down. Mercury retrograde in Leo will be July 17th through August 11th. Okay. So a little less than a month, right? So typical Mercury retrograde. I know most of you already, we know this drill, right? Be very careful with your communication. This is when we can have miscommunications, misunderstandings, right? Because Mercury is our planet of communication. So, not being able to function at his full force when he's retrograde. So, issues with communication, issues with transportation. If you're traveling during this time, you've got to be prepared for delays, cancellations, roadblocks, right? So, just be aware and double check your reservations, all of that stuff. Back up your phones, back up your computers, make sure you're packing extra chargers. Those are kind of our just go-to Mercury retrograde things. And with Mercury retrograde in Leo, though, if we want to get specific about Leo, this is also, a time to reflect, right, on anything creative. Leo rules creativity. So this is a great time, good use of this time is to revisit any passion projects you have, any hobbies that you have, maybe something you were starting to get into and then you forgot about it. Go revisit that thing. Maybe there was something you started and then you just kind of dropped it. Go back and revisit that thing. If it was something that brought you joy, that you had fun doing, go revisit that thing. The one thing, though, we don't usually want to do during a retrograde, Mercury retrograde, especially in Leo, is start something brand new. Not a time to start a brand new creative project or start a brand new thing you've never tried before. I mean, you can, but you might have some hiccups along the way if you do that. But it's great for things that have already been started, but that need to be finished, that you want to go back to. And also, yeah, with communication with Leo, people could be extra dramatic, right? People could be extra bossy. Just be a little bit prepared for that with the retrograde in Leo. Okay, then now we're getting into full Leo territory because on the 22nd, here we go, we're going to have the sun leave Cancer, okay, and ingress into Leo, and the sun rules Leo, okay, so we call this the sun being in dignity. This is the sun's favorite sign to be in out of all the zodiac signs. So it is strong energy. It's very powerful energy when we have the sun in Leo, right, for a month. July 22nd through about August 22nd, we will have the sun in Leo. So it's a little tricky this time around because we're going to still have that Mercury retrograde. Because normally, yeah, I would say start creative projects, start brand new things, launch things, try something new with this Sun in Leo. And we can, but we're going to, well, shoot, no, we're not. If Mercury is going to be retrograde the entire time we have the Sun in Leo, that's kind of a bummer. As I said, I'm like, yay, get excited, everyone. It's not the worst thing, though. There's still plenty we can do, but I would still refrain from starting brand new things with the simultaneous Mercury and Leo. But Sun in Leo, again, though, but just good for our confidence. We can be a little more sure of ourselves during this time. We can take the initiative more easily. And yeah, Leo is the lion, right? King of the jungle. Where in our own lives do we need to step up? Where can we take more of a leadership role? Okay, that is Sun in Leo. That is Leo season. Where can I be more of a leader? Also, how can I just be expressing myself, expressing myself more? Because that's also Leo. It's very expressive. Leo is not afraid to um to be its authentic self, right? So we can look in our own lives. Where have I been holding back? Where have I been playing small? Where have I not been giving myself enough credit? This is a good time to work on our confidence. If there's an area in your life where you might feel like, yeah, I'm really confident about doing this thing. Ooh, but this thing, I'm not so confident about. Try to work on that during this time. How can you improve that confidence? Maybe you take an online class for it. Maybe you work with a coach. Okay. Maybe just put more of your personal work into something. Maybe you really commit to something more. But that's a really good use, okay, of the Sun in Leo. Um, and yeah, anything creative, anything expressive is a positive thing to do. Also, just things like going to theater, go to a show, go to a concert, go to a comedy night, go to a baseball game. Okay. Entertainment is also connected to Leo. So, yeah, try to incorporate some fun things or like have a movie night with your friends. If any of you can like set up a projector in your backyard and, do something like that, that's super fun. And that's very, very Leo. Anything else about Leo? Yeah, that's pretty much it. But the leadership piece is huge with Leo, and that's a really good one for those of us who want to do some good self work, right? Like, where can I be showing up more? Where can I take the lead a little bit more in my life? Where I can help some other people. Okay. Also, oh boy, yeah, this is the same day. So around this time, and actually the buildup happens a few days before July 22nd. I would say starting from July 15th even. We're getting the buildup of this Venus, okay? Venus squaring the nodes, okay? And again, you guys, some of you have heard me talk about how sensitive the lunar nodes are. Okay. And the lunar nodes, we have the north node and the south node, always directly across from each other. They are not physical objects in the sky. It's a mathematical point, but it represents the ecliptic. Okay. So the very center of the earth. This is why the nodes always tell us what signs the eclipses are going to be in for the year. That's how we know for the next 2 years we've got eclipses in Pisces and Virgo because we've got the north node in Pisces, the south node in Virgo. Okay. But whenever we have another planet make an aspect, okay, to these nodes, they get triggered because they're very sensitive. And usually, yes, we see something manifest. Okay, so around July 22nd is when it goes exact. It's actually kind of probably earlier in the day when Venus is at 19 degrees, right, excuse me, 19 degrees of Gemini, squaring the nodes. Squares are pressure. Squares are a challenge. So, I mean, if I'm just looking at Venus, this could again have something to do with peace talks. Peace talks probably not going well because it's a square. So, difficulty finding peace, difficulty in relationships, difficulty with people getting along, um, social unrest, something like that is applicable. I don't know specifically what it is going to be. Those are just ideas because it's Venus. We've also got Gemini, so communication, something with communication. When we had this happen in, I guess it was the end of May. The end of May, we had Mercury in Gemini square the nodes, and that's when we had the Trump-Musk feud, the Twitter feud, when that Mercury in Gemini. So that was a communication thing. With Venus, it could also be something to do with women, right? Women and girls, something we could see. It could be something financial because it is Venus also rules finances, but because she's in Gemini, I feel like it might not be that. Okay, but so again, that's just something for me personally. That's a date I'm going to have my eye on. Adding to that, though, we can also see Mars. Mars here in Virgo is also conjunct the South Node. It's right next to the South Node and across from the North Node. Again, this is adding extra fuel, okay? Setting off these points even more. Mars, not super, super excited. Mars, because we know, right? War, violence, intensity, right? Aggression. So around this time, yeah, we could see an attack of some kind. We could see a disaster of some kind. We could see, something again related to these wars that have been, going on. I always hope not. I always hope those things don't happen. But looking at the energy here, likely something's going to happen. And then, yes, some of you are probably also going to, well, wait, but then doesn't the Venus and Mars, yeah, they're also making a square to each other. And that is individuals versus the people, right? Because Mars is about the self, Venus is about everybody getting along with people. So we've also got that tension happening simultaneously as well. There's conflict. We're definitely going to see conflict around this time in July. Okay. So that is a big date. Uranus moving into Gemini, and then this thing happening is what I'm going to be personally paying attention to. Okay, then hopefully we have something positive come in on this actually might be the same day. It's actually the same day. So maybe this is going to soften things. And I'm talking about this Jupiter moon conjunction, right? Because yes, even though we have, right, all this intense stuff, all these planets in Aries, right, aggressive energy, but we do have Jupiter in Cancer, which is like mom just giving everyone a big hug. What do you need? How can I take care of you? Come here, cry on my shoulder. Let me, make you some tea. Okay, that's this Jupiter and Cancer energy. So when it lines up with the moon later in the day on the 22nd, maybe that's going to soften some things or make whatever this Mars Venus stuff is, maybe make it less impactful or less disastrous, or I don't know. But because this is nice. Jupiter and the moon working together in Cancer. It's very supportive. It's very caring. It's very nurturing. It's very soft, nice energy. Okay, goody. Now the 24th. Okay. We have our new moon in Leo. That's going to be at 2 degrees. So let's move this up here. Okay, here we go. So the sun and the moon are going to line up at 2 degrees Leo. New moons, right? Always about this is where we want to set intentions. Okay. This is a very powerful moon for manifesting. Okay. I will tell you that because again, it's Leo, creative force, intensely creative energy. What do you want to create? Okay. Set that intention on July 24th. And we've also got the sun in its home of Leo. So overall, this is a pretty positive moon. Okay. This is good. This is also good for setting specific intentions, right? Yes, for creative projects, for leadership, for confidence. Again, where in your life do you really want to take more of a leadership role, or where do you want to have more confidence? And yes, too, you can look at the house in your own chart. Where is 2 degrees Leo in your own chart? What house is that? Do you want to set an intention for that? Yeah, great. Go for it. If you've got it happening in your seventh house, you can set an intention for relationships. If you've got it happening in your second house, you can set an intention for financial goals, okay, etc. Now, also, something I forgot to mention about Leo. Leo also rules the heart. Okay. So this is also to like listen to your heart. What is your heart telling you to do? Where does your heart want to expand? What activities are like, do you hear that and you go, oh my gosh, that speaks to me so deeply? Yes, I want to start that thing. Okay. Do that on this Leo new moon. Listen to your heart. It sounds cheesy, but it's also true. Leo also rules romance. Okay. So, again, if you are in a relationship, this is a really nice day to plan something romantic. Maybe you want to do a little getaway. Maybe you want to have a date night. Maybe you want to go to a concert. Maybe you want to go out dancing. But nice romantic energy. And if you're single and if you want to meet someone, yeah, go out on this day. You could find some of your own romance around this time if you want to do that. Now, when you know me, I always look at the rulers. So obviously the ruler of Leo is the sun. So we look at what else is happening with the sun on this day. Obviously the moon's there, but we're also right across from Pluto. Okay. Which this can go either way in terms of like the mood of this day. For one, there's a lot of oomph with this Pluto opposition, meaning whatever you want to manifest, there's a lot of power going into that manifestation on this day. You can use Pluto in a good way. Okay. But also, the other side of Pluto, though, is Pluto likes to take out the trash. Okay. Pluto likes to destroy things that aren't really working anymore. This could be a day, maybe some of us do have to release something. We've got to let something go, maybe something falls apart, or maybe there's something consciously that you have been wanting to let go of. Use Pluto for that. Again, like give Pluto the trash bag and say, Pluto, I don't want this trash anymore. Please take it. You can do that too with this moon. So yeah, there might be some emotional intensity to this day. People might be a little more kind of charged. People might be a little more controlling on this day. That can sometimes be Pluto. Um, yeah, and in terms of world events, yeah, this Pluto could trigger something. Something could collapse, something could fall apart, something could there could be, a death of some kind. Hopefully not, but that's also Pluto. So yeah, just that's the biggest thing also happening with this moon. But then it's also getting, positive energy from Neptune and Saturn. So again, this is supportive of things that are creative. It's supportive of things that give us some structure. So just keep that in mind when you are looking at like, what should I focus on this day? Maybe what creative thing, or maybe where do I want to create more structure in my life? You could use that for this moon too. Okay, we're almost done, you guys. Hang in there. Now we are getting to the 30th, okay, is when we have some more things pop up. On the 30th, we have Chiron station retrograde in Aries. Chiron, not a planet. Chiron is an asteroid known as the wounded healer. Okay, so again, retrograde, we're going internal. Okay, now through this will be July 30th through February of 2026. Okay, so yeah, we've got a long time with Chiron retrograde. It's about reviewing any internal wounds that we have. Where do we need healing? Where do we want to nourish ourselves? Okay, this is also good for, maybe shadow work, maybe things about our personality that we've been struggling with that we want to be better about. And for some of us, we can, look at the actual Aries component for any of us who maybe have, maybe we judge people too quickly, or we react too quickly, or we jump to anger too quickly, and maybe that's something we want to work on. That's something good to do while Chiron goes retrograde in Aries. And on the 31st, this is all that's left. Yep, on the 31st, like I said, Venus then moves into Cancer. Okay, very last day of July, we have Venus leave Gemini, move into Cancer. And this is good, you guys. This is a good sign. Venus in Cancer, again, Cancer is like that mom energy, right? That maternal energy. It's the sign of caring, nurturing, emotional support. Okay, so when Venus is here, yeah, it's very maternal. It gives us, for a month, we're going to have Venus in Cancer, which is where people are more likely to be more caring, be more sensitive to others, be more nurturing. This is also a time, where it's good for us to nurture our literal, right, our own relationships, with the people we care about, who are the loved ones in our lives. How can we be helping them more or nurturing them more? How can we, just be taking care of each other? How can we take the best care of each other? That's what Venus in Cancer wants us to do. And she's going to be, right there with Jupiter in Cancer. So this is also good. The summer, right, has already been so intense. And July is going to be intense too. There's going to be some intense things. But hopefully, towards the end of July, we're going to get some softness, right? We're going to get this water energy too. Water, cool things down, calm things down, maybe get people out of a place of anger into a place of sensitivity and compassion. Okay, that's the best use of this energy and what we can hope for. Okay, everyone, that is the month of July. Anyone who is here live, do you have any questions? Is there anything you want to ask? And it can be about your own chart or just in general.
Yeah, do you think that maybe Saturn retrograde is the worst, if there is such a thing, or
That what? Say that again.
that is there such a thing as maybe Saturn retrograde is the worst to live through, or not? We can't do that, right? Like list them.
Is Saturn retrograde the worst to live
Yes,
through? Is that what you said?
yes,
Well, yeah, I mean, I usually don't put things as like, right, the worst, but I mean, each retrograde has its challenges, right? We know that. But I mean, I kind of know what you're saying. I mean, Saturn in Aries is
it's tough.
that's tough. Yeah, because we know Aries is so reactive, so impulsive. It's those again, sign of war. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, Saturn retrograde in Aries, it's not the best retrograde for Saturn. Yeah, we can say that.
It's just, I noticed that things when happen in Saturn retrograde, they have such a long-term effect because Saturn is the
Yeah.
long. So I feel like that's the hardest for me of all of them. If there
Yeah.
is such a thing that I can pick difficult.
Yeah. and that's, and that's such a good point. And that is such a long term. And that's Saturn too. Saturn is longevity,
Right.
right? Saturn is like, yeah, long term effects too. So, yeah, perfect use of the language there.
And then
Um,
along with Neptune and Pluto and Chiron and Mercury, my goodness.
I know. I know. We've got a lot of retrograde. I was calling this, yeah, retrograde summer. It's not,
Yes.
they say, oh, it's hot girl summer or it's retrograde summer,
Yes.
everybody. So,
Tara, I
oh,
have a question.
yes.
I'm a Virgo,
Yes.
and do you see anything specific or about a move, change of housing or change of address in the next couple months for me?
Well, it could be. I mean, we do have this, throughout the month of July, right? We do have that Mars in Virgo. Um, crossing over, yeah, it's going to cross over your sun if it hasn't already, but that could definitely, Mars is movement, Mars is action, Mars
Mm-hmm.
is, going. So, yeah, you definitely could have some movement this month with
Okay.
Mars and Virgo there. Um, but
Okay.
yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything, the Jupiter in Cancer too. I mean, it will eventually make an aspect to your sun, a positive aspect. And it's
Okay.
Jupiter in Cancer. Cancer is home, literally homes, property, living environments.
Okay. Then maybe something in the next few months. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And and maybe it's more in August too, when Venus goes into Cancer, because
Okay.
she's also gonna aspect you.
I was hoping for my
So
birthday. I was hoping for my birthday.
yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, good question, Marcy. And obviously reach out to me again if you want anything more in
Okay.
depth, okay?
Okay. Will do. Thank you so much, Tara. I appreciate it.
Yes, you're so welcome. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you so, so much for joining today. If you are someone who is watching this, watching the recording, I do these the first Saturday of every month. You are always welcome to attend. Just make sure you get on my mailing list, which you can find at my website, anotherDayGreener.com. Until next time, I wish everyone a good July, and just remember to prioritize your peace, things you need to do for yourself, protect your mental health, all of that good stuff. Because I think, yeah, we are going to continue to see a lot of things happen in the world. So yeah, prioritize taking care of yourselves, okay? And find your communities, you know, that's the best thing we can do right now.